Alrighty, so, okay, well, let's give it a sec, see if we got some folks on board. There we go. Yeah, let's see who jumps in. This is a very spontaneous video, very spontaneous live session. It's intended as a newbie zone. It's intended as a follow-up on this series that I've been doing. Let me put some additional light on here. Maybe that's too much. Technical tracker. Hola. So, yeah. And the intent here is to deal with any questions related to this series. On how to become a 3D freelance artist, right? Goedenavond, Niels. Yeah, Niels Janssens, Dutch, as you can see by his writing. Yeah, so that's the idea. I didn't pre-schedule anything, so I'll give it a minute or two for some people to jump on board, and then we'll get started, right? So let me know in the meantime, any of you been watching those videos on the freelance series? Any questions so far? Hey, how are you? Let me know. Any of you have been watching those videos? Like I said, I found that the videos are apparently people that watch them like them very much. The like rate is extremely high, but the number of views is fairly low compared to other videos. I think that's probably because it's very specific for those that are not planning on becoming a freelance artist. Probably you're not checking that, right? Okay, so let's see. Technical tracker saying how to start animation startup. I assume you are talking about how to become an independent animator and not how to start animating, right? Can you please confirm that? Let's see. Okay, so Niels likes the series. Cool. Let's see. Mike, I'm really enjoying your more finance-focused videos. 3D artists are bad with finances, and you are helping out so much. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, finances is very important, obviously. I actually recorded or released a video. I think the one today was on how to set up a business plan, right? But as you will see in the description of this live stream, there are many, many topics that we're going to cover. Contracting, dealing with clients, negotiating, the sales process, how to set up a business plan, taxes, and all that cool stuff. Yeah? Okay, cool. So rear sight apex, which video were you watching? And as the series progress, the topics I would say are becoming more and more interested, right? Okay, so I'm not doing a specific video on how to start an animation startup because when it comes to freelance 3D work or becoming a freelance 3D artist, the technical side of the job, being the modeling or the animating or whatnot, it's a given, right? I mean, you need to be able to understand your craft, obviously. This series is much more about, I would say, what they tend to call the soft skills. Although I wouldn't call them soft skills, I would definitely call them major skills that you need to have for the simple reason that so many 3D artists do not, right? A lot of 3D artists are not good with finances. They don't know anything about contracts, dealing with clients, setting up taxes, business plans, and all that kind of stuff, right? So yeah, that's kind of the intent here of this this live stream, to deal with any questions you might have on those topics, whether you have seen the videos or not. Okay. So let me know. So Chris is saying he didn't see the videos just yet. Well, they're online. I think I posted number 6 today, 5 or 6, and there's going to be 10 in total, right? And just let me advise you that even if you are not going to be a freelance artist, I would definitely advise you to watch the videos, because it will help you to be a much more productive member of a team if you're working for a studio as an employee. Okay. Let's see. Last episode, thoughts on discounts for long-term clients to keep them coming back. Right. Now, that's a good question. I wouldn't necessarily go with the discounts. Discounts is related to money, right? And I see many people give away money to hold on to clients. And if you are at some point working with no profit, there's no point, right? However, yeah, I think, in today's video, I actually addressed that, how you can lower your asking price without losing money. And the way this basically works is, if you calculate the number of hours that you can work in a week as a freelance 3D artist, you will find that this is, maybe 65% of the time if you're doing really well, because you're driving to meetings, coming back from meetings, all of this time spent, you're not making any money, right? So the money you need for that certain week has to be earned in the days that you're actually working for the client. That gives a certain number per hour, right? The thing is, if you can work more hours because a client guarantees you 40 billable hours in a week, as a result, you go from 65 to 100%, meaning that you can lower your hourly rate, but at the same time, not lose any money, okay? That's one way to go with it. What you need to do is try to give value in different ways, right? Not give away stuff for free, but add value to the proposition, okay? The next thing to hold on to clients is this. Let's say your contact at a certain company is, I don't know, he's Jim, right? And he's responsible for marketing. Cool. He asks you to do a project. You do that, he's satisfied, he asks you back for a second. What you do is, through Jim, you try to get into contact with multiple people in the same company. Hey, Jim, are there other people here in need of 3D work? Well, yeah, Harry in the other department needs something. So over time, you start to work for 3 or 4 or 5 different people in the same company. While doing so, this means that if other people have new business, they will ask other people, hey, do we got somebody here doing 3D for us? And you got now 5 people saying, yes, you, right? Also, if they, for whatever reason, cost reason or whatnot, decide they want to go with somebody else, they're going to have to convince everybody in the company that you have been working with, right? And if some people are more senior in the company than others, you kind of have some protection going on, right? So let's say you've worked for Jim, but also for Jim's boss. If Jim wants to get rid of you and his boss doesn't, there you go, right? Alrighty, let's see. Is render time also included in the time spent on a freelance project? Yes and no. The render time maybe not per se, but when you are rendering, right, you can do other stuff. You can work on things. But when you're rendering, your equipment is being used, your hard drives, your system, your server, if you have one, and so forth. And there is a certain lifespan of that server. If you buy it new, 4 years from now, you need to replace it, right? Let's say you spend $10,000 on it. 4 years from now, it's useless. You need to get a new one, right? So that's $2,500 write-off a year. Now you calculate that based on a month. Let's say, I don't know, 200, something like that. So 200 a month, which means like $50 a week. So if you have a week of rendering going on, you need to charge $50 to at least cover that cost. Okay. Let's see, time being used. Well, Nicholas saying time being used, that kind of depends on whether you're actively rendering. If you start up a render and then go off and work for another client, it wouldn't be fair to charge the render time in hours of your time. It would be fair to charge the time, yes, but not your working time, if you know what I mean, right? Okay, let's see what else. Very much enjoying listening to the live streams. Cool. How to make perfect animator like you. So I'm always fun. Awesome, thank you. So where can I find in 3D freelance? So technical tracker, oh, you mean where this, what area this applies? Basically anywhere, right? I'm not talking about a specific area. I'm not even talking about a specific type of 3D work. Everything I cover in the videos is basically relatable to any type of 3D work, because we're not talking about the 3D skills, we're talking about the business skills, okay? All right, let's see, what else? Okay, so Nicholas, also your time being used. Can you please explain what you mean by that? Do you mean your time while you're rendering? Can you please explain? Any of you have any questions about the video that you have seen in that series? Okay, so I'm going to stay on topic here. So the question about lighting, I'm going to skip that for now because I want to stay on the topic of the live stream. Okay. I've probably said this already multiple times in other videos of yours. Thank you for introducing me to Maya. It's great among by now. Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate that. How to build my own brand. All right. I'm kind of jumping the gun on this one because I did a full video that's not released in that series yet, where I talk about marketing, I talk about advertising, I talk about public relations, and I talk about personal branding, right? All of that is going to be covered in detail. What it is, what the differences are between those, why you should have a personal brand, how you set it up, where you should set it up, everything is covered there, right? Okay, let's see. What about ArtStation freelance jobs? That's more in the realm of how to get work. I would, yeah, I can't say a definite yes or no. It depends on so many different factors. Basically, anywhere where you find a legitimate contact with somebody who is professional, has a track record, should be okay, but be careful with that, okay? Okay, Project Raven is saying, what's the most effective way to make contacts and big names to notice you? Well, like I said, that is covered in the video that I just mentioned. It's coming up soon. It's coming up next week. And it's going to be about marketing, advertisement, public relations, and personal branding. And it will talk exactly about this. So how do you get in contact with, big studios, with people you want to work for, and so forth, okay? Cool. Hector, hey Mike, hey, how are you? Okay, guys. Well, yeah, I liked to do a video a bit later in the day. Normally, I'm doing this midday, and that kind of excludes some time zones. So that's why I wanted to do it a bit later today, right? Let's see. Okay, so Nicholas saying, well, it depends. If you have multiple computers, then great. But if you only have one workstation and a huge project to render, yeah, that's fair. I mean, yes, if you can't work because you're rendering, then definitely you should charge your hours, right? Because you're inactive at that point. If you are using external render farms or you have an external render setup that you can just continue to work on, should be okay, yeah? Let's see. Hey, Ben, how are you? Mao time or Mo time? Mo time. Motown, maybe even. Okay. Let's see. Cold toes in New York City. Yeah, I can imagine. I got a couple of friends up there, and it's apparently it's very cold. Okay. Okay, guys. So anything about contracts, negotiations, taxes, how taxes work, what taxes you need to pay, registration fees, Chamber of Commerce, anything like that. Hey, there you go. There's my buddy Aram. Hey, good to see you. Yeah, I was literally just sending a message to you like, what, 20 minutes ago. Okay, so I have 2 workstations. Okay, well, 2 workstations, that kind of depends. And it's not a very complicated calculation, to be honest. I mean, you can easily calculate what a render costs if you use a render firm, right? So they charge usually based on data processed. So if you're an animator, you're going to process a lot more data than if you're just rendering still images, right? But they usually work based on data. Now, you can figure out what a new system costs, right? Let's say a new system is, I don't know, $5,000, right? Lasts 5 years, that's $1,000 a year. Now, if you only render on occasion and the cost for that is way lower than the price of a new system, right? And then you can also charge that fee back to the client, then it's kind of easy because it frees up your time. It's usually problem-free. You don't have to worry about upgrading hard disk drives and all that, right? Okay. Can I pitch for freelance jobs outside studio or production? You mean besides studios or production, or are you talking about literally standing outside of the studio and asking for work? Because that would be a big no-no. Let's see, taxes are very different in every country. For example, as a freelancer, I only have to pay about 10% of my yearly income. Okay, well, let's see, is there any tax you pay from your online shop? Okay, alrighty. So let's talk about taxes for a minute, right? I know the different rates, different percentages, and so forth and so on all over the world, but there are some generic rules, okay? Usually what you pay is sales tax and you pay income tax. Now, income tax is if you're a freelance, so you're not a business owner with a bunch of people employed, right? If your company format is freelance, so it's not an Inc. or an LLC or anything like that, then you have business expenses, you have money coming in. The difference between these two is your gross profit, then you pay taxes, then you got your net profit, and then you have your private expenses and whatever you reserve for things you need to replace, right? Now, if you are set up that way, then the tax revenue service will charge you based on the portion that you use for private expenses, right? So it's a private part and a business part. And of course, then the sales tax. Sales tax is a bit different. And it's different percentage per country and per product often and per, whatever. But the principle is the same. Some people call it sales tax. Some people call it VAT or value added tax, right? In Holland, it's called a BTW, BTW, Belasting op de toegevoegde waarde, for those here that are Dutch, yeah? What it basically means is this. If you're a business, you buy stuff and you sell stuff. Or in the case of a 3D artist, you buy supplies, ink, paper, whatever, to do your business, and you sell your services to clients. So let's talk about a product to keep it simple. Let's say I buy this for $10, right? I get an invoice, I have to pay $10, but because I'm a business, it says $10 and $2 taxes is $12, right? Okay, so $12. Now I go out and I sell this to somebody else, but I'm not selling it for $10, I'm selling it for $20. The tax on that is $4, double, right? So I buy something for $10, $2 tax. I sell the same thing for $20, $4 tax. The difference between 4 and 2 is obviously 2. These two go to the tax revenue service. So if you think of this, it didn't cost you anything, right? Because you paid $2 to your supplier and you got the $2 back from whoever you sold it to, right? So it doesn't cost you anything. But in addition to that, you got $2 more from that guy. And that guy, right, is giving you the extra $2 that you have to give to the tax service. Now, keep in mind, that guy may be a business too, and he's selling it to somebody else, let's say a consumer. So in the long run, Who pays sales tax or VAT? The consumer does. Let me know if that makes sense, okay? Let's see. Is it not better? Let me just go back up a little bit. Tax rate different. Okay. Is there any tax you pay from your online shop? It doesn't matter where you make your money. It matters that you make money, right? And if you make money, you pay taxes. Okay. Let's say scope creep, big issue. What's your tactic with that? Okay, I'll get to that in a second, because I think there's a second question on the same thing. Yeah, okay, let's go with that. Okay, so what does scope creep mean for those of you who are not native English speakers, right? So you do a project with a client and you agree on a price, and the client says, I want you to model a house, to keep it simple, right? I want you to model a house. Cool. Okay, $1,000. So you present the house and say, give me my money. And then the client says, well, I actually wanted to have a little thing on the roof there, like a chimney, right? Can you add that? So you add the chimney. And then you say, okay, I'm done. Give me my money. And he says, well, can you add a garage to that? And he keeps going and going and going. At some point, you're doing more work than agreed upon and you're losing money, right? So it's very important to have a perfectly crisp and clear scope description. When you say, I'm going to model a house, what does that mean? How big a house? How many stories? How many windows? How many doors? Is it textured or not? You need to understand, both of you, when is this done? When is it finished? All right. Now, what I typically do is I will include in the price 2 changes, because the client usually wants to change something, right? So 2 changes are included. If they want more changes, then I add costs. I say, okay, this is going to cost me more time. Based on the change that you want, I'll give you an additional quotation or additional price for you to pay. And then he can say yes or no. Let me know if that answers the question. Let's see what else we got going on. Okay. It's not better to just charge them per project, because in the end, you are just rendering a still. No. Because, first of all, because of what we just talked about, the scope creep, right? If they are changing things, then suddenly something that you thought would be a 3-hour job, right, is suddenly a $2,000 job. Now, I sometimes price per project. That kind of depends. They ask me, let's say, to do a house. I talk through the scope with them, and then I have an understanding, okay, this house will take me, I don't know, 20 hours, right? I look at my hourly rate and I charge them 20 hours as one project price. So they don't pay per hour. They pay based on my calculation as a project, one price. Because I know that the scope is clear and tight and there's no changes going on, right? If it's not that clear, because it's an ongoing creative process, I have to charge per hour because I don't know where they're going from there, right? Okay. Let's see. Is it okay to make a contract with a client before starting the freelance job? It's not only okay, it's essential, right? I never start working on anything unless I have a contract, because you will get into all sorts of issues. Client says, I never said that, or I never agreed on that price, or who are you, or whatever. You spend a lot of time working on something and you basically get screwed on that, right? So I never do that. And if a client doesn't want to sign a contract, you can question whether they're serious or not. I don't necessarily have them pay up front. I would usually, depending on the length of the project, have them pay 50% up front. Then halfway the project, I'll deliver them some work to show them, hey, I'm working on this. They'll give me an additional 25%. And then after delivery, when everything is said and done and it's delivered and they're satisfied, they pay me the final 25%, right? This way you have a shared risk. They got money invested, so they can't walk away. You got work invested, so you can't walk away. That's kind of the thing, yeah? All right. Learning more from you than from my school. Okay, cool, thanks. Should I downgrade should I downgrade to the CRT since their classes are PDF based instead of videos? I personally am a very visual person. I would definitely go with the videos, to be honest. Let's see. Sri, how are you saying? 3D animation student, great inspiration. Thanks for the tutorial videos. You are very, very welcome. So when we sell, we must sell a bit higher. It makes sense to get a profit. Okay. Yeah, obviously. I mean, if you calculate your business cost, and I think that's the upcoming video or the video. I don't know exactly. I think that's the one coming up. Yeah. No, not the last video, the video before that. Talk about finances, right? Okay. So you calculate your private expenses, $1,000. You calculate your business expenses, $2,000. That's $3,000, right? You save money for taxes. That's $1,000. So that's $4,000. And you need another $1,000 to save up for a new computer 4 years from now. $5,000. Yeah. So you know what you need to charge money-wise. Now, let's see. I'm just wondering what I'm going to talk about this because it's in the video and I don't want to confuse people. And let me just stop right there. Otherwise, I'm going to be going on about this specific thing for like 30 minutes or so. It's all covered in the video. Please check that. Okay. Let's see. Okay. What's a healthy first investment and first baby steps of the business? Okay. Now, there are a couple of things you need to do. Two things, basically. And this is pretty much applicable for any country, everywhere, right? Anywhere. You need to exist as a company, meaning you need to register as a company. So you need to go to wherever you go in your country to register. And in my case, it will be the Chamber of Commerce. And you make an appointment and you say, listen, I want to register myself as a company. They'll ask you a bunch of questions. What do you want? Oh, I want to be a 3D artist. Are you going to go work freelance? Yes. Are you going to have employees? No. How much money you're bringing in? This amount, so forth and so on, right? Now, all of that information is put into the computer and you get a registration number. So now you have a registered business. That piece of paper and that consult usually costs some money, right? Not a lot, maybe 30 bucks, 40 bucks, whatever. So now you have a document saying that's the name of your company, that's your registration number. That's a small investment. With that piece of paper, you go to your tax revenue service and you tell them, listen, I have now a registered business. I want a Chamber of Commerce, not a Chamber of Commerce, a tax registration number. These are the two things you must have, okay? Now, from there, if you're going to look at what are the first investments, what you need to have, obviously, is a computer. Without a computer, you can't work for a client, right? So let's say you have a computer. Let's say you got that. Make sure you got software licenses that are legal. Don't work commercially with illegal software. Let's assume you have that as well, okay? Other than that, I think it's very important for you to get word out. I mean, you can go old fancy and make, business cards and websites and all that. I wouldn't do that. I would rather spend some money to get in contact with the right people. Let's say there's a 3D event going on somewhere, right? And it's in your local area and you think that's a place where you can find actual clients, right? But you have to go there, spend a night, pay 50 bucks to get in, whatever. That would be a way better investment than spending $100 on business cards, right? Because you get face-to-face with people that potentially might hire you. That would be my choice, right? And let's see, what else got going on here? I learned to charge half now, half later. Yeah, very good. Okay, so what would be the difference between me freelancing as a normal person and starting a one-man company and continuing to freelance finance-wise, of course? Well, basically, there's no difference. I mean, from a finance standpoint, from a law standpoint, there's a difference, right? And that has to do with what type of legal entity. Now, I don't want to overcomplicate this, right? But when you register as a company, you adopt a legal entity. I need to explain that, especially for those of you who are not English speakers, okay? Let's say Apple or Starbucks or whatever, right? That's not a company owned by one person. That is a company noted on the stock exchange. They got thousands of employees. They got a CEO. They got managing directors. They got all that stuff, yeah? So who's the owner? Who's responsible, right? Now, the method and the type of business you register has a lot to do with responsibility. If I'm a private person and I register my company as a freelance artist and I make a lot of debt, right? The IRS can come over and say, listen, you didn't pay your taxes or whatever. I'm going to take your personal house from you, my personal house, although it's a business debt, right? As companies become bigger, what you decide to do is protect yourself as a private individual by making it a LLC or an Inc. or something like that, right? Basically, you become an employee of your own company. And although the company is liable, you as a person are not, or only for a certain percentage are, yeah? So hopefully that makes sense. Okay, let's see, what else? What are my opinions on Fiverr? Fiverr is nice, I would say, for some secondary income. I wouldn't take it too seriously, though, if you are planning on making a full-time living as an artist. Some money on the side, sure, if you want to make, 50, 100, 150 bucks a month extra, nice. If you want to have this as a career, I would spend my time on other things, yeah? Let's see, contracts. How are we going to send a contract if I'm freelancing from other countries? And can you talk about invoices too, okay? How do you send a contract? Per email, right? How does that process typically work? A contract, first of all, what's a contract, right? A contract is a legal binding agreement between two or more legal entities. So why do I say entities and not people? For the reason I just mentioned, right? You can have a private person, Mike, right? Or you can have a legal entity like Apple. Apple can go into a contract with, let's say, IBM, right? And the people signing it are representing that legal entity, but it is the company going into the contract, not the person, right? Again, it's about, who's liable and responsible and all that. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so how this process works is you get in contact with a potential client, right? And they say, hey, I want you to do a house. And you say, okay, what kind of house, how tall, how big, how many windows, textured or not, UV'd or not, all that stuff, right? And then you describe that. And then you describe who you are and who they are and when this thing is starting and when it's going to end and who's going to pay when and based on what. And so everything you agree is in that document, right? Now, usually you send it back and forth. You send a proposal, they change 3 things, send it back to you. You disagree with these 3, you change them, you send it back, and it goes up and down depending on the size of the project, 2 times, 3 times. I've done projects that went up and down for 18 times, depending on the amount of money, right? Okay, so now you got the contract in place, then you start to work. Are there other types of contracts? Yes, manual contract, verbal contracts. You tell Jim, sure, I'll do that. And he has a witness right there, yeah? That's a binding contract. It's a legally binding contract, and it will hold up in court, right? So a verbal contract can be a contract as well. A purchase order can be a contract. Any agreement that is not against the law, right, could be a legal agreement. So in other words, you cannot put a contract in writing agreeing to do something illegal. I cannot make a contract and say, I want you to go and rob a bank for me, right? And if that person doesn't rob a bank, then I go to the police and say he's not following my contract, right? So you can't do that. Okay, then invoicing. If you send an invoice to a supplier, to a client, sorry, then you need to have a date on it, right? You need to have your legal company name on it. you need to have your legal company registration number on it, and you need to have the proper amount of sales tax on it, right? You need to describe when they need to pay. What is the final date that they need to pay? You need to mention the correct currency, and you need to have a description of the project, possibly a project number, stuff like that. Okay, cool. Alrighty, let's see. Do I prefer to charge for time or project? I kind of mentioned that. I usually charge on a project base, but I base that on my calculated hours up front. And I make very sure there's a clear scope description. If the scope is not there, then I sometimes charge per hour. Okay, let's see. Just trying to make sure I don't skip anything here. Hello from Russia. Hi. Beautiful Russia. Been there, loved it. Nicholas saying, what ways would you recommend marketing your work? Okay, again, I did a full video on that. That's coming next week. And I think the best advice I can give you is to watch that video, because it's very detailed and I'm covering everything. Advertising, marketing, I'm covering communication methods, networking, portfolio, public relations, personal branding, all of that's going to be in that video. Okay. Any tips for design students? From a business perspective, it is exactly the same as anything a 3D artist will be doing, right? I don't know if that's your question exactly, but okay. All right. So Aram saying, marketing during COVID, what has been your strategy now that conferences are on hold? Well, first of all, conferences are not all on hold because a lot of them are digital, right? A lot of them are online. They're kind of set up as a workshop type deal. And it's different, right? I personally am not too worried about that kind of stuff because my approach has been different anyway. As you know, I'm an influencer. I got a YouTube channel. The thing is this, and you'll see this in my marketing video, more than 80% of the people distrust ads, right? They see ads, they don't believe the content, they're not okay with the content, whatever. So what they do is they follow influencers. If you are watching YouTube and you see a video by Casey Neistat and he's saying, hey, this is a good camera, you probably believe him because you think he's a nice guy and you trust him, so you go out and buy that camera, right? So as a result, more and more companies are using influencers to drive their business. For example, my channel sponsor is working with me because I'm an influencer, right? Now, that means that from a marketing standpoint, if you want to promote yourself, find ways to work with influencers. For example, let's say somebody like myself says, hey, make a video about what you do during the day, right? And describe your daily process. This is an opportunity for you to get some free advertisement, right? You make a video about your day, you show what you do during the day, and while you're doing that, you're, kind of promoting your business, right? So that's what I would do. Let's see, how to get away from paying taxes. I don't know, don't do business. There's a saying, there are two things that are certain in life. One is death and the other is taxes, right? Everybody has to pay taxes. Are there ways to pay less tax in a legal way? Sure, there are, right? But that's a whole different story. And it's more related to how you construct your work, but that's not related to how to start off as a freelance artist. That is more fine-tuning your business after 5, 6, 7 years and so forth, okay? Let's see. Hey, I'm a graphic designer doing 3D stuff since 2011 as a hobby, but I live in Germany and I want to earn first experience in doing this as a job before. Oh, there's more, I think. Before I do freelance, I live in Germany, but most jobs are in the US. What do you suggest to start? Okay. So you're saying you live in Germany, but most of the jobs are in the US. Well, first of all, that's not true, right? Because you need to think about, okay, jobs. What type of jobs are we talking about, okay? When people think about 3D, they think about, all right, so what we got? We got games, we got movies. Now, these two things are just a tiny, tiny part of the industry, right? Because everybody uses 3D. Literally everybody. Toy manufacturers, furniture manufacturers, hospitals, universities, IKEA, right? They all use 3D work, but people don't think about that. They think about games, they think about movies and TV commercials to start with, right? Okay, so let me see, what was the question again? Okay, now, if you look at the jobs that are out there, right, they're not just in the US, they're everywhere. And to be honest, it's shifting because a lot more is now going on in Europe. I was in Animago last year, a big 3D event, something like 147 countries present, whatever, yeah. And it turned out that if you look at everybody who was there, if they were talking about, let's say, Pirates of the Caribbean or Caribbean, whatever, they would say, okay, this is done by the team in Madrid, this is done by the team in Montreal, this is done by the team in Munich, this is done by the team in Barcelona. So they're everywhere, right? So it's absolutely not the case that it's just in the US. Alrighty. Let's see, what's a good place to start building a portfolio? For instance, would you use Squarespace for 3D models? I thought Squarespace was a website thing. So basically you're saying, but to be short on that, I would start putting my portfolio on ArtStation for the simple reason that most people do. And as a result, most clients look there, right? How do I compare lead artist roles and junior artist roles? Well, this is not really related to the topic of freelance, but I would say it's in the name. What do you mean by compare? Financially or job skill wise or what? Let's see. Okay, personal website or ArtStation. There's another reason, by the way. If you make a personal website, it's indexed by Google, right? Search engine optimization. So Google visits your website and says, I'll visit again based on content change. Now, you don't change stuff on your website that often, right? So Google, based on the number of websites out there, is going to visit your website again in 8 months, right? Looking at the amount of information being updated on ArtStation, because of the thousands of people on there, it's refreshed like every minute, right? So if people go and look for you, chances of you being found on ArtStation are 1,000 times higher than you get found on your website, right? Now, sometimes you still want a website because you can tell people, hey, check my website. But if you want to randomly be found on your website, chances are not that big, okay? Let's see. Okay, stick to their advertise. Okay, I wouldn't, especially if you're starting off in freelance, I wouldn't advertise that much because the return on investment is very low, right? Okay, we got one little idiot here. Let's get rid of him. Hang on. There we go. German car industry, ArchFizz, TurboSquid. What do you think about crypto art freelance? Okay, I'm not quite sure what the question is there, so please explain. Let's see. Started out in programming over 15 years ago and regret not keeping up with it. I'm now working on learning Python as well as brushing up on C++. Think that would help out more in the job market. Yeah, it would. For those who don't know, I mean, Python is a more broadly used scripting method or programming method. C++ as well. Specifically, Maya users would maybe use Mel scripting. It's always good to be able to do that. It's definitely not essential. As a 3D artist, I would say it will give you maybe a 5 to 10% advantage over others, but not major, okay? Let's see. Do I set up UVs in my designs for clients or create them without texture? I do whatever I agree with the client, right? If the client wants untextured models, they're going to get untextured models. Have I ever found work through LinkedIn? I would say about 85% of my jobs I mean, LinkedIn is like majorly important. Which are the best for earning hourly or fixed price for 3D models? Upwork. Not familiar with Upwork, to be honest, so I really don't know. But it's kind of the same situation. I mean, based on the client you're working with, whether you know them or not, whether they are known for pushing outside the boundaries of the scope, I'd be careful with that. Whether you would charge a fixed price or not. Nicholas is saying, am I based in the Netherlands? I'm currently in the Netherlands, yes. Because of COVID, I mean, I have a house in Netherlands. I usually spend about half a year per year in the US, but now obviously not because of travel restrictions. So yeah, right now I'm in Holland. What do I say about selling 3D materials? Go for it. If you can, why not? Let's see. Thanks for the video tutorials. You're very welcome. I meant material packs and textures. Yeah, fine. If you can sell it, sell it. Let's see. What other software should we learn that's really outside of the scope here? So I'm not going to go into that. Let's keep on topic with our business stuff. Yeah. So what else? Any other questions? And time flies, as you can see. We've been at it for 45 minutes already, more even. Okay, so yeah, any other questions on contracts, invoices, taxes, sales process, negotiating, anything like that? And I'm just curious, for those of you who are studying to become a 3D artist, is any of this stuff covered in college nowadays? Any of it? Hey, Laura. Not at all, and yes. Okay, interesting. Do I use an accountant? I do not. I don't have to. As a freelance artist in Holland, you don't have to. I use a bookkeeper, but not an accountant. An accountant is more if you have annual figures that need to be certified, right? And accountants tend to be way more expensive. Okay, we are using Maya. That's cool. They covered Maya and Substance at the Art Institute. Okay. In my colors, nope, not at all. That's not good at all. Not covered at all. Woo. Let's see. The reason why I'm asking is I hear this literally every day. I mean, there's kind of a trend going on here, and I have no idea how old you are. I don't know where you live or any of that, but I'll share with you a couple of things that I've noticed, right? First of all, we live in a society where, especially the younger generation, they basically live through their screens, right? Cell phone, tablet, computer. They're very good at creating a persona online, not so much when it's face-to-face interaction, right? And that's a problem, because if you want to do business with somebody, it's still the preferred method, if possible, to do that face-to-face. And I'm not talking literally physically face-to-face, but for example, in a Skype meeting, right? Now, in a Skype meeting, that's pretty much the same because there's no way to hide. They see you as you are, and your conduct is your conduct, right? So it's very important to build your social skills and to know how to conduct yourself in a business environment, right? Now, keep in mind, you're a 3D artist, right? You don't have to be some kind of bank employee in a suit and tie or whatever, but you need to know how business works and talk to business owners or clients in a way that they understand that you have their best interest in mind, okay? So, and that's something typically not covered or not covered well in schools. So there you go. Let's see. How to create an effective profile for client on Upwork. Well, actually, hang on. I do want to skip questions. Hang on. Okay, college only teaches art. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, so Nicola is saying I'm doing 3D for a couple of years now and recently decided to move to Belgium to pursue a career in 3D, mostly for networking internships, but none of that is covered. Okay, not good. How to create an effective profile for a client on Upwork. Where you have your profile doesn't really matter. What matters is that they have an understanding of who you are as a person, what your skill set is, how experienced you are, what kind of projects you worked on, and what kind of work you're looking for, right? But even though we are using it at our school, since everything went remote, too difficult to learn through reading PDFs, which is why I watch your classes. Oh, thank you so much. Got a bounce, Mike. Fab stuff here. Thanks. Great to see you again. You too, Ram. Take care, buddy. Alrighty. Yeah. Anything else, guys? Any problems you ran into with clients, with projects, with contracts, with money issues, any of that? Let me know. We got at least another 10 minutes to go. So if you got anything, just let me know and I'll gladly answer it if I can. Let's see. Could you use a payment for 8-week course as a business expense tax write-off? Absolutely. Okay, let's get rid of this a-hole here. Okay. All right, let's see. Is it wise to start pro bono? Absolutely not. Absolutely not, right? Okay. Okay, somebody is just messing around here, so we're going a bit fast in the comments here. If you're talking about freelance, do you see how hard is the job first, then only decide to take the job? Yeah, of course. I mean, you talk to a potential client, right? And then based on what you talk about, you decide whether or not you want to take it on, whether it's in your skill set or not. And keep in mind that if you think somebody or something is outside your skill set, be honest and say that, right? There's no point in taking on a job you can't do. It's frustrating for the client. It's frustrating for you. It's not going to help anyone, right? The good thing is, if you actually tell them this, they will probably respect you for it, right? Any advice for imposter syndrome? Not quite sure what you mean by that. Do you mean by people saying that they created something and then show a model that they ripped off online somewhere? What industries do you find work with? Any industry, automotive industry, furniture manufacturer, toy manufacturers, hospitals, universities, car garages, anybody and everybody, right? Okay, let's get rid of this guy again. Yeah, there's always one, right? Okay, let's see. Does it really matter what rendering engine you use with your software? Okay, well, Hector, that is outside of the scope, so I hope you don't mind if I skip that one, right? Pretty sweet looking course intended in and if I could use it as a tax write-off. Well, the thing is, if you want to use a course that you took as a tax write-off, first of all, you have to be registered as a company. You cannot spend money on a course, then 3 months later register as a freelance artist, and then use it as a tax write-off. You have to have a registered freelance business at the time you're making these costs, right? And then, of course, you need to have proof that you have an invoice and proof and so forth, okay? And then you can do that. If it's relevant, of course. You need to have a course that is related to your actual job, okay? Let's see, most important feature in LinkedIn, what's a must? Well, first of all, it's a must that people know where to find you, right? Your email address, your contact details, absolutely a must. Besides that, because there's a search routine there as well, you need to describe, what constitutes you. What's a job you're looking for? What's the work you do? Okay. Let's see. I got a client who said he wanted a project done, which he would pay $200, but asked for just the head, which he did pay $20 for it. I guess I need to ask for half the payment up front now. First of all, if he paid you $20 for something, that's a joke. I don't care where you live. $20 is like nothing, right? If I'm assuming you're talking about the head of a character, right? Based on $20, even if you live in a country where your rent is $50 a month, it's still not enough, right? So definitely check my videos on finances, and I'll explain exactly what you need to look at as far as how much to ask and so forth. Think I need a chat moderator. Yeah, that's okay. I'll just get rid of the idiots, and we're good. Imposter syndrome is when you don't have the courage to get into the field because you don't think you can do it. Okay. I really don't know what to say about that. I mean, that's a problem that would be a problem in any industry, I would say. But why is that called imposter syndrome? Because you're not being an imposter, right? Not sure. I think it's maybe related to what I was talking about before, when it comes to the ability to go out and talk to people and that kind of stuff. All right. Am I covering in the series how to look for clients? Yes, I am. Hector, all good? Yeah, please. I have got a mistake with my certificate form. How can I correct it? I have no idea what you're talking about. Sorry. Indonesia, to be honest, here in my country, development 3D industry is still very slow and not really advanced as in other countries. That's okay. I mean, you need to look at your local market if that's where you're working, okay? For comparison, I've got to use 2 years of my experience in professional field to match the skill of a student in other countries. All right. Ooh, that's interesting. Let's see. Because of that, freelancing in 3D here is really unappreciated. The live here really helps. Thank you. Well, you are very welcome. Let's see. Yeah, I need to check the post. I've been searching for the base rates, like the minimum one would ask, but still it's not clear to me. I'll definitely have to check that video. Yes, in that video, and I think that's the video that went up today, right? I talk about how to set up your business case. I talk about, business expenses, private expenses, taxes, reservations. I talk about all of that stuff, right? So hang on, let me just grab that video link. One second, guys.
So if you're looking to start
So that would be this right here. Let's see. We got a couple of more minutes. Let's see what we've got going on here. All right. Yeah, I need to check the post. Okay, check that video. Yeah. Okay. Hello from New Orleans. Awesome. I've been there too, and that was amazing, really. Okay, let's do one more question, guys. And while you think about what that question might be, I'm going to share my Facebook link with you guys. I have a Facebook group specifically for 3D artists that are aware of my channel, right? And they interact with each other. They help each other build a network. They do collaborations and all that stuff, right? So hang on one sec while I grab that link. So there you go. And you are all invited, okay? And yeah, hopefully you do check that out because like I said, a lot of people made their career by being a member of that group. Not necessarily because of me, but because there are like 4,100 members, right? All of them work together, post their stuff, ask for updates, ask for CNC, right? but many of them collaborated and started to work on projects together. We even have a guy with a game studio that hired several people in that group that are now working for him, right? We got, for example, I was speaking at a 3D Congress in Germany last year, and they asked me to bring a team. So I invited 3 members of that group, and I flew them into Germany. One was from Wales, one was from the US, and one was from Germany itself. And I brought them all over, and we spent a couple of days there, and it was awesome. So you never know what's going to happen, right? Okay. Do I think it's a good idea to work with a group of freelancers? And let's call that the last question, okay? I think it is a very good idea. Not all the time, but if you are taking care of your clients, then you also need to take care of them when you don't have time, right? So what you do is the client is calling you, they have an urgent project, you don't have time. What you do is you hook them up with somebody that you work with and other freelance artists, and they do the same. Now, it's important that they're at the same skill level. Obviously, it's important that you can trust them. But if you do it that way, then it's definitely a good idea to do that, right? Okay, guys. Well, that's it for me. 1 full hour in, a lot of talking. I'm thirsty. I think I'm going to see if I can find some JD, if you know what that is. And that said, thank you so much for hanging out. Definitely check out that video series. I know it's dry stuff, it's complicated stuff, but it's extremely important. So please check out that series, right? And check out the Facebook group if you want to meet a whole bunch of cool artists, okay? Again, thank you all so much. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for supporting my channel. See you guys next time. Take care. Bye.